you ever wonder why in America we have one of the worst healthcare systems in the world? We're a country that has some of the sickest people, the most disease, the most health problems than almost any other industrialized country in the world. We spend the most money on healthcare. We have the most doctors, best medical technology yet. We're 37 countries down, 36 other countries are healthier than ours. Do you ever wonder how we got this way? Well, I'm going to show you the history of the deceit that's been happening in the inception of medicine. So let me go through a few stats. By the way, I'm Dr. Fred, and I'm a truth teller. We're going to awaken you to the truth. We're going to help you confront the shadows that are manipulating your existence. And that's the purpose we're going through this. So I got some notes here. I'm going to put my glass on a bit. Now, do you realize 20 to 30% of all patients that go to a medical doctor receive contraindicated procedures? Contraindicated. What's that mean? That's bad. You get exactly opposite of what you should get. Now, this is medicine's evaluation of itself. This is from the Medical Industrial Complex in 2009. Now, get this, and the CDC even admits this, less than 10% of those patients that receive, of those 20 to 30%, 10% of all the problems of patients that are given the wrong procedure are even recorded. So 20 to 30% is documented by medicine, but only 10% are being reported. So if the average 25% are contraindicated and that's reported, that's 1 out of 4. So you got a 25% chance, but if only 10% are being recorded, what is it really? Well, let's be conservative and let's say it's 50%. That means you're going to an MD, you're getting these drugs, which I'm going to show you how that works, why that ended up that way, and you're flipping a coin. At best, those are your best odds that you're going to get the right thing that's actually going to heal you of disease. So that, and it's probably more. Best bet, flipping a coin. Now, how did all this start? Well, check this out. Way, way back in the early 1900s, J.D. Rockefeller, who had Standard Oil Corporation, controlled 90% of the petroleum refineries in America. Now, what happened was he started getting into petrochemicals, oil-based chemicals to start developing oil-based drugs. Now, do you want to drink Quaker State? If you drank Quaker State, what do you think would happen to you? Well, you're getting drugs that started with oil base, right? So he tried to recreate vitamins and herbs with synthetic petroleum based drugs. Why? Because in early America, medical schools actually taught about herbal remedies, they taught about vitamins, they taught natural remedies that were already proven safe and effective. But no, no, no. What was Rockefeller's deal? No, I want to monopolize multiple industries because he already monopolized the oil industry. Why? Because in 1911 he got busted by the Supreme Court that says this is an antitrust suit. You can't be unfair to everybody else and eliminate your competitors. Great strategy for business, dude. Smart guy. Let's not just create something better. Let's just eliminate the competitors. And you can't do that in America. It's called antitrust, right? So he got busted and busted up Standard Oil into 34 separate companies. That's why we have Mobil and Exxon and Shell and all that, right? So what did he do? I'm going to turn, I'm going to continue the desire to dominate healthcare with oil based drugs. So what happens? The problem was, again, many medical schools are teaching natural remedies. So, oh, no, 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 we can't do that. So if I'm going to monopolize, then I have to do the same thing I did in oil, which is eliminate competition. So it's not like I'm going to create something that works better than these natural remedies because they're already proven to be safe and effective. I'm going to eliminate all that stuff. So what do I have to do? I got to trash talk them. I got to trash talk him. So we hired a dude, Abraham Flexner, submitted a report to Congress in 1901 saying that natural forms of healing were, quote, unscientific quackery that were not based on research, which was false. And we have to standardize medical education. So what are we going to do? We're going to create one model that's going to become the standard. So what's he do? He goes to the AMA, and then after many grants, here's all these grants to the AMA and grants to medical school, right? All these donations so that the AMA is the only one, another monopoly, that can license a medical school to give their graduating students licenses. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the AMA, man. I'm going to the top, the monopoly of all medicine, and we're going to do that. So now what's he say? Now what's the standardization? Drugs and surgery. That's all you can do. So rather than vitamins, natural remedies, and herbs, what becomes the standard way back in the 1800s? Bloodletting. There we go. So instead of saying take vitamin C to boost your immune system, alkalinize your body, we're going to just drain your blood and maybe enough of that infection will come out and you'll get better. Great idea. That's what you need when you're sick. Less blood, less oxygen, less nutrients. That's what you need. And then what? Injecting heavy metals, lead and mercury into your body. Nowadays, what's that mean? What's mercury? Well, that was enough vaccinations. Autism, brain degeneration, breaking down your immune system, lead. I mean, toxic. That's where they started. Geez, if we kill enough people, man, then maybe the petroleum based drugs will look like a better answer. I don't know what their strategy was on that. So then he teams up with Andrew Carnegie. Are you guys finding this interesting? I thought this was fascinating. Teams up with Andrew Carnegie, began funding medical schools, so it's only drugs and surgery. And what did they do? They removed all natural remedies. No, 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 no. We can't give people what it takes to heal. You have to give them these drugs. You can either do these drugs or you can cut out their organs. There's nothing else. Now, here's the big problem. And then they started to smear all the natural healing arts. Like we are going to publicize, make public the smashing of all, we're going to call it crackery. Anything but drugs and surgery, you're a freak, you're a charlatan, you don't know what the heck you're doing, right? So, in fact, what they did was, now the problem is medical doctors were already using natural remedies. So, what do? Oh, if you do that, you're going to jail. Yep, if you give vitamins, man, you can't do that. We're going to put you and your freaking family to jail. And then all of a sudden starts the American Cancer Society. Well, this is interesting because now, if you do any alternatives to chemo or surgery or radiation, you are a criminal. So with cancer now, because the average case back then, $150,000 per cancer person. If you do anything other than chemo, radiation, or surgery, you're a criminal. You lose your license. You go to jail. You lose your family. We burn down your house. You're assassinated. You turn up missing. All of a sudden, you get in a car accident. All of a sudden, you have no history of using drugs, but you're a drug overdose. How's all that happen? Now, in the meantime, what are they doing? Now they're smearing out everything else. Then 1918, Spanish flu pandemic. All these people were dying from the Spanish flu, right? Now the problem was, here's their problem. People went to chiropractors, and because the nervous system, natural healing, energy, actually, if you listen to the last truth teller, actually builds the immune system. The chiropractic patients were living only 25 out of 10,000 deaths. Now, patient went to medical doctors, 925, almost 1,000 out of 10,000 people died, right? The chiropractors, only 25 out of 10,000 died. So people went to a chiropractor, natural healing, energy in the body, spinal cord is a lifeline. Your immune system is dependent on energy through your spinal cord. Now, chiropractic patients are living, and that is what put chiropractic on the map for licensure. Isn't that amazing? Spanish flu, people that went there were living. Now, oh no, now we have another problem, man. These chiropractors, they're gaining power. People are going to chiropractors for disease, and that's not drugs or surgery. So in the mid 1960s, the AMA set out a campaign to label chiropractic as an unscientific cult. That is a quote, right? And established a committee on quackery, that's in quotes, to destroy the profession. So now, all of a sudden, you can't, we're not going to teach, in medical school, we're going to teach chiropractors are bad. You can't refer to a chiropractor. You can't take any patients from a chiropractor. And you have to badmouth chiropractors because we can't have that. They're gaining momentum on healing. That's not drugs or surgery. So what do? Pour money. What do? Uh, Indoctrinate the medical doctors. What do? All we teach and build is pharmaceutical companies, which he started as well, because he bought a pharmaceutical company out of Germany in I think it was 1910. Now, so they go through this thing, 1987, huge court battle, goes to the Supreme Court, and then here's the judgment in quotes. The AMA had engaged in lengthy, systematic, successful, because it worked, they badmouth chiropractors, and unlawful boycott against chiropractors. They got busted. Hey, there was four chiropractors. They spent probably their whole freaking life savings, man, to win this in court. And they said, AMA, you can't do this anymore. You set a plan to badmouth a perfectly great healthcare system. Now in 1990, of course, what's the AMA going to do? Well, we're going to appeal. In 1990, U.S. Court of Appeals ultimately, by the Supreme Court, said, no, 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 that decision is permanent. You can't ever smash chiropractors, right? And this is why, not because chiropractors were about back pain, because the spinal cord is a lifeline. That is the energy of healing. When you realign your spine, your healing capabilities, healing energy gets to your organs, your immune system builds, you actually heal of disease. Oh, that's a big problem. There's a lot of money in disease. So now what happens? Well, in the meantime, people are dying, okay? And you can Google this. It says medical care is the third leading cause of death. But if 20 to 30% reported by medicine get the wrong care, but less than 10% are even reported, you're at least 50, probably at least 75% getting a treatment that can harm you. Well, that's not going to work because there's too many lawsuits. And now we have all these vaccinations. This is becoming a problem. Sudden infant death, right? Now, in reality, if those stats are true and all those things aren't being reported, it's really the number one cause of death because such a small percentage is being reported. Because if it was and it became public, that's the leading cause of death in this capitalistic healthcare, profitable healthcare system. That might create a problem. So we have to taint the heck out of those stats, CDC, crooked AMA, crooked organization, right? So now in 1987, the pharmaceutical companies they go to the government. We need indemnity, man. This is hard. All these people are getting sick. They're autistic. They're dying, sudden infant death. There's autoimmune diseases. The children's cancer rates going through the roof. It's increasing radically. Now it's truly the number one cause of death. So what are we going to do? Well, we have to get the indemnity, which means what? Which means now you can't sue a pharmaceutical company. You have to make a claim to the government, and the government is going to try and prove you can't have a civil lawsuit for a vaccine injury against a pharmaceutical company. So they get to produce a product that is known to injure you. By the way, Pfizer, the big one for the big COVID vaccination, right, got busted in 2011 for covering up research that showed the relationship between thimerosal, mercury, and the incidence of autism. Billions of dollars of lawsuits. They don't put that out in the headlines, right? You don't see that out in CNN. So this is the truth. Awaken to the truth. You can't sue them. What company is allowed to produce a bad product that is known to hurt, injure, maim, and kill people, and the government protects you? How deep does this go? Right? Why would you do that? Well, I believe this and I believe that. Not to mention that doctors are financially rewarded for the amount of patients that are vaccinated. So you go in there and they make you feel guilty. Well, if you just ask what's in it, and then you get yelled at as a chiropractor, I ask patients, go ask your pediatrician. And it was a barrage of insults. Now I think there's a shift, and you can say, well, my pediatrician was honest with me. Yeah, well, that's rare. Okay. So now here we are in today's healthcare system. Now, why is it the third leading cause and not the first? Massive underreporting. Secondly, what's on the death certificate? So the COVID vaccination known to create systemic blood clotting. So you got a blood clot to your lungs, an embolism, you die, you get a blood clot to your brain, and you have a stroke. Then what's on the death certificate? Stroke, not the fact that I got the COVID vaccination and my whole body clotted. What if I take a drug and it caused me to have a heart attack? What's the on the death certificate? Heart attack. This is one of the reasons why it's tainted. This is one of the reasons why it's not reported, because it's inaccurate. They go by what's on the drug certificate, on the death certificate. Now, if doctors put vaccination on the death certificate, that's a problem for them. All of a sudden, oops, you're out of practice. Oops, you're gone. Gee, where did my dad go? He's missing out of the blue all of a sudden. Why would you go to a system that is illegally the number one cause of death in the country when you have all these other avenues? Why? Because there's only two countries in the world that are allowed to have pro drug commercials: New Zealand, United States. Why don't the other countries? Because they have socialized medicine. If they don't do what works, then the healthcare of the country will bankrupt the country. So they have very different policies. I'm not saying all their healthcare systems are great, but there's a lot that are 36 other countries that are healthier than us. Why is that? Do you ask yourself that question? Because our healthcare medical system, which isn't healthcare, that system was created by a guy who wanted to monopolize industries. And that's where we are today. Don't you think that's freaking amazing? So, hey, these will be on YouTube. Subscribe to the Truth Teller on YouTube. Follow these episodes because we are going to awaken you to what impressions and what may be ruling your life that you have, or at least giving you impressions that you may have no idea. Let's start telling the truth. Let's, in our Lord's Prayer, thy will be done. God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let's bring heaven to earth by telling the truth and by following it. All right, blessings to you guys. Love you.